Hello class, welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a little side detour off of lecture 2. We had a two-part series on that. You could call this part 3. It's all about ATP and how our understanding of the actual amount of production of ATP molecules has changed over the years. So what are these changes? Well, if you pick up an older textbook, traditionally you are going to get quoted that when you are burning glucose for energy, you generate 6.33 ATP per molecule of O2 used or consumed. And if you compare that to fat, when you are burning fat, you can, quote, only generate 5.6 ATP per molecule of O2 used. Put another way, or a different calculation, when you are burning glucose, each liter of oxygen consumed generates 5.05 calories of energy per O2 used. Compare that to fat, lower number, 4.69 calories of energy per molecule of O2. Therefore, glucose has got to be better, right? This is why traditionally everyone recommends carbo load, use glucose, drink that Gatorade, right? It's better at generating ATP, quicker, faster, more efficient. Unfortunately, limited total supply. If you recall from part 2 of this talk, I can put that in the description here, you only have about 500 grams of glucose in the body in terms of storage. Darn, that's what happens when you hit the wall or bonk or redline or crash, when you run out of glucose stores and have to switch to the lower speed fat in terms of energy production. And that's when you crash and your quads lock up on you. So another way to say this, yeah, carbohydrate oxidation appears to be less oxygen demanding per molecule of ATP produced compared to fat, right? Well, we now understand there are actually some other losses that have not been calculated in the traditional textbooks. What actually happens when you're burning glucose and going through the complete oxidation of glucose down through pyruvate and glycolysis into the citric acid cycle and through the electron transport chain, that total of 38 ATP does not actually happen in real life. Why? Well, that ATP has to go somewhere, right? You need to get that ATP out all over the place to different locations within that working cell, and that actually causes some losses, and it costs some energy to transport that energy. We now know that the net yield is actually more likely 30 to 32 ATP, not 38 ATP that you find quoted all over the place. Now, if you calculate that same situation from the previous slide, 32 ATP, now you're only generating 5.33 ATP per molecule of O2 compared to fat, which is still 5.6. And it doesn't stop there, right? It gets better. When we think of fatty acid, we don't just have one chain, we have 3 chains plus a glycerol attached to it. So if you take 16, which is palmitic acid, or more commonly used the 18 carbon stearic acid, that one chain, when you plug it in through beta oxidation, you get 147 ATP times 3, 441, plus, don't forget about that glycerol, that plugs in right here into glycolysis, another 19. Holy smoke, you got 460 ATP. Wow. So a modern textbook, I quoted from this one, considerable energy yield compared to the net 32 ATP formed when skeletal muscle catabolizes glucose. Not too shabby. So, should we now conclude that fat is better than glucose, right? It's a ton more ATP at an efficiency that is slightly higher than glucose. Gosh, maybe it truly is better, right? These numbers say or argue that fat has more total ATP, more efficient, and of course the endless supply, right? 12,000 grams of fat versus 500 grams of glucose. It is the perfect fuel. We should all stop carbo loading. We should just go keto. We should all get fat adapted, take those carbs and just throw them out the window, right? No. In vivo, in life, in the real, it is clearly slower. Anyone who has bonked in cycling or hit the wall in running, which very interestingly really does happen right around mile 20, we all know this. And this is from the first lecture right here, that wonderful study that looked at the maximum rate of phosphate bond regeneration here, and then the actual rate of ATP utilization breaking those bonds here. When you are running a marathon, you're going at 36, which is exactly how much your body can regenerate when you are maxing out through glycolysis right there, through aerobic. Whereas if you compare that to fat, way down here at 14, you're just going to go slower. If anyone has ever bonked, they know what this feels like, right? Your quads just lock up on you, the gears jam. So this does provide some fuel, so to speak, to the fire. Sorry for the pun. In terms of debating and arguing whether athletes should use carbs or fat, or actually periodize and get their body a little bit used to being flexible metabolically with burning both of those fuels. We don't have a final answer to this question.